All right, welcome to Bet the Edge. I'm Jay Croucher. We're here live in Las Vegas on Radio Row, recording Thursday afternoon. We've got Aiden Hutchinson about 5 yards to my right. He is one of the largest human beings I've ever seen. Drew Dinsick, another kind of reasonably sized human being. And we also have Trysta Krick from Odyssey, Heat Check podcast. Thanks for joining us, Trysta. How are you liking Vegas so far?
Oh, it's been amazing. I think that this is one of the best cities for event coverage that you could possibly have. It never feels like too packed except for Radio Row. You can walk around the sports book, walk around the casino, walk around the hotel and not feel like there's a massive event, so you can kind of go in and out of it. We went to dinner last night. It was like 70% at capacity. It was one of the better restaurants in Mandalay Bay.
Yeah, no question. And the buzz is very real. Today especially, it feels like everybody kind of got the memo, hey, this is going to be a must participate event. The city was built for this. And really, they've done a tremendous job so far taking care of us.
Yep. Well, I've been here for 4 nights now, and I feel a lot worse than I did 4 nights ago, but I think you needed a game plan for this city. I'm happy with how I've eaten. Eating has been fine.
Really?
Really happy with my hydration. I've drunk a lot of water. My H2O.
But like $11 water?
No. We have we have the free waters from NBC, and
Good.
I just I hijack 6 or 7 of them before I go back to my room each day. So very happy with the water situation. Even drinking has been fine. It's just sleep. Sleep has kind of gotten away from me.
Have you done any nightlife activities besides just dinner and drinks with friends and casino stuff? Have you gone to any shows?
Went to the Sphere last night to see
U2?
U2. Yeah, which was great. One A+ venue, maybe the best venue I've ever been at for a concert or for anything really. It's ridiculous. Also, I don't really think about the band U2 that much, but I think they're probably like the 3rd most famous band of all time after the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. I think U2 might be 3rd. And also they just have a ton of songs that you don't realize that you know, but then they start playing them. It's like, oh, I know With or Without You and Vertigo and Elevation and Beautiful Day and Gloria and everything. So it was really good. All right, let's talk about football. You're on the Chiefs, which hurts my feelings, but we can get into that. And you like backing Chiefs alternates, so what's the angle for the Chiefs blowing out the Niners, do you think?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question, right? And I thought that the Chiefs and the futures bets for the Niners obviously changing how that line is. I thought the Chiefs would maybe be like a pick. And so when I got Chiefs +3, I thought to myself, well, there's just no shot that after all of we've seen this path that the Chiefs have had, to me in my mind as I'm thinking about narratives, this matchup, this defense, and really how the Niners have looked along the postseason, that's kind of my main top line thought for this breakdown is the Niners look bad against the Packers, Niners look bad against the Lions, and then they found a way to get back into the game. If they do the type of tomfoolery that they've done in the last 2 games against the Chiefs, I mean, they're scoring 10 points. That's what it is.
Yeah, I'm not going to be watching the second half if that's the case. I'll call it a season. All right, we're Niners, man.
But you guys are legitimate sharks. So that's the reason.
We're Niners men, but I don't think either of us are super
No.
confident. There's a chance that Purdy could just melt.
No,
I would not be shocked. I would not be stunned at all if we see Purdy's Baltimore performance again. And that I think would be the
That's
case
what I
for
had in
the
my mind
Chiefs.
as well.
Alternates is that he could just melt. They could be playing from behind and have a game script where they have to drop back and throw. And I think the thing with Purdy is we've seen that when he makes mistakes, they do tend to compound, and it seems like he does get in his own head a bit. Now, to his credit, the world was falling apart in both of the playoff games, and he was able to get himself out of that. But there's
Bad
certainly
defenses, though.
Yep, not great defenses.
That's fair.
It's going to be interesting just to see how Purdy and Shanahan, how they're able to combat Spags and his blitzes, because all season the Niners have been amazing against the blitz, but the way Spags blitzes is more confusing. Purdy, there's a chance that he could just break potentially.
Yeah, and I mean, I think in the immediate aftermath of knowing this was going to be the matchup, everybody was kind of like, somewhere between 3 and pick, you know. And so there's very narrow edges in this market, but as it happens when you're on Radio Row and you do 500 hits in the balance of a week, you talk up your position, and so maybe it feels a little bit more like that there's no doubt that the Niners will win this game based on sort of all what you talk yourself up. But the scope for the Chiefs to win is absolutely there. Are there any particular weaknesses or concerns about the Chiefs as you are holding an alternate spread there?
Yeah, I think it's the run defense.
Okay.
Right? That's like my main concern. You've got Christian McCaffrey, best running back in the business, and Shanahan. Like, Shanahan is going to have a scheme dialed up to take the pressure off of Purdy. That's what he does. That's what he knows to do. That's what he did with Jimmy Garoppolo. He obviously has a better quarterback on his team now, but I think Christian McCaffrey is going to get the rock a lot on the ground to try to combat those blitzes, right? So I think, Christian McCaffrey attempts is in play for me. What is happening here with this? Receptions as a safety valve for Brock Purdy as well. And then, listen, like, if the Niners go down and find a way to just have those long, methodical drives just like the Bills did, the Bills had a real shot to win that game. And that's, I think, how the Niners have to do it as well, is Brock Purdy on the ground as well. Like, 11.5 rushing yards was the first bet that I placed.
Yep, no, I like that. I was talking to Matt Ryan this morning about, like, everyone talks about how Shanahan's this amazing coach and, like, the play design looks awesome, but, like, what is it that is particularly unique about Shanahan? And he gave, I thought, a really interesting response where he was like, Shanahan, he is obsessed with breaking rules depending on the opposing front and what you're seeing. And so it's basically like, all right, this is what they are showing. Here is the one weakness in this from the run perspective first. So it all starts with the run. The weak point of this front is we can run in between, guard and center, guard and tackle, and that's the first priority. And then the second thing off of that is, okay, so once we break that rule, then what happens when they overcompensate against the run?
Exactly.
Then where is the weak point in play-action passing? And just Ryan was so impressed by Shanahan's ability to, I guess, figure out those rules in-game on the fly and adjust. And I think a lot of this game is going to come down to two guys who in the playoffs have been pretty shaky so far, in Purdy and Shanahan. Shanahan has not covered himself in glory. I don't know why this team there's no reason the Niners just have to suck in the first half of playoff games. Like, this shouldn't keep happening. And if it does against the Chiefs, they're probably going to lose. And then so much of the handicap is just like, all right, Brock Purdy, is he going to be the guy who destroyed Dallas, who had a perfect passer rating against the Bucs, who lit up Jacksonville? Or is he going to be the guy from the first half against Green Bay and Detroit and the Baltimore game? And so, I mean, what are you expecting from Purdy in this game? Do you think he's going to show up and be the guy who looks like an MVP candidate, or do you think that he's potentially going to get overawed?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. If you look at the passing numbers, 248.5, I'd probably lean under. Haven't played that. It feels like I said before, it has to not be on his shoulders. So, yeah, I mean, I like him to throw a pick. I think Snead's going to have a game. I mean, he's one of the more penalized DBs in the league, but he's freaking good, man. And that back end for the Chiefs is nasty. That defense in general, and Chris Jones has been tremendous in the playoffs as well. He wants his bread, and he's been showing it. So the pressure for them, I think, is going to be on, and I think they're going to be able to try to get Brock Purdy uncomfortable. And I think he's got to roll out. Like, he has to use those legs in order for them to combat what the Chiefs want to do, just like Josh Allen did, just like Lamar Jackson did to a degree. Probably should have done it more, right? And that, to me, I think is going to be like that X factor. If you can get 40 yards on the ground, 50 yards on the ground for Brock Purdy when things are collapsing around him, and he's been really good at that. And I think he won the Detroit game with his legs.
Surely. We could use some help strategizing from someone who is coming from the Chiefs' point of view here when it comes to how to anticipate and make decisions betting in-game, betting at halftime. My most likely outcome here is that the Niners are going to be able to find success early, generate a little bit of a lead. Do you think that the Chiefs have the right DNA for comeback in this setting against what is a pretty phenomenal, at least a phenomenally talented front four for the Niners, and dealing with the weapons that have been a little bit underwhelming when it's been crunch time over the course of the season?
Yeah, I think if the Niners, and this is maybe me just doubling down, if the Niners go up, I love that. I love that. If you like the Chiefs -7 when they're 3-point underdogs, I absolutely am just entranced if they're down 7-0 with just them to win on the money line, right? Okay. The DNA of the Chiefs are that they never get into their own way.
Okay.
And I think that psychology breaks teams down. We saw that happen a little bit in Buffalo when Diggs was there underneath and Josh went to the end zone.
Yep,
You saw that a lot in the Baltimore game with just a lot of the pre-game antics, the Van Noy head to Travis Kelce, the roughing penalty. So teams seem to figure out a way to get into their own way, even when they're better in terms of the personnel, even when they've got a lead, even when they're right in it. Somehow something happened with the Bengals a couple of years ago or last year. So, yeah, that's kind of what I anticipate in my mind is they're going to be able to push the right buttons, which is Kelce, right? He's one of the best pass catchers in the postseason ever.
Sure.
So I like his receptions. I like his yards. I like his anytime touchdown. Everybody does, right?
Sure.
Rashee Rice, I think, is right there. But Pacheco over 15 and a half attempts. You know, the Niners' run defense has been absolutely trash. You saw Aaron Jones do it, right? You saw David Montgomery do it. You saw Jahmyr Gibbs do it. So I like Pacheco to do all the things.
Okay. Yep. So what's the tipping point? At what point is the margin too great to expect a realistic comeback for the Chiefs?
14.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty. Hopefully, it will be hard. It's Niners, man. It will be hard for the Steelers to have a 14-point deficit.
7
well,
is like
I asked
not
that for a specific reason, and we'll get to MVP in a moment. But I have now accumulating a little bit of exposure on no for Pat Mahomes MVP, and I feel like to cover a lot of my action, if there is a 2-score deficit, live betting Mahomes MVP is the way. I can cover it all, right?
Yep. No, I think that, to your point, Trysta, about like the DNA of this Chiefs team, I thought Romo lent into this heavily on the broadcast, where there is an idea of like when you are playing against Patrick Mahomes, I felt like the Ravens, because they had Mahomes on the other side, it was like this has to be a touchdown every single drive or we're going to lose. And they kind of didn't realize that the Chiefs hadn't scored a single point in the second half and did not score a single point in the second half. Just the kind of the awe and the threat of Mahomes.
Yes.
It's kind of like when you were playing Roger Federer at his peak and you're up 4-1 in the fifth set, never felt like you were 2 games from victory, felt like you were 5 games from defeat. And I think that Mahomes, he definitely does have that level of intimidation.
And aggression, too, right? You talk about the motivation for the Niners. You look back before the world stopped, 2020 Miami Super Bowl. I was at that one, and they feel like probably this is their chance for revenge. Revenge is not a good emotion for playing within yourself. You start to do way too much. So that's something that's really interesting to me. And you're right, like the Ravens should have just ran the ball every time. And to your point also, Chiefs are second half unders, fourth quarter unders. I mean, you guys know the trends. They've been kind of automatic bets.
Yep. So Super Bowl MVP, do you think that anyone outside of Mahomes and Purdy is interesting in this market?
Yeah, I think if you're talking about just based on the price, I don't think Brock Purdy wins it. I think I rule him out. I think in general, voters don't want to give it to him. And there's a real case for CMC regular season MVP, which he will not get. So maybe there's a makeup for him to get Super Bowl MVP at 4-1. But also, there's probably some better prices with 3 touchdowns, because that's probably how he has to do it. And I think I saw 9-1 for him to have 3 or more.
Yep. No, I don't mind that.
Price.
I think that there is definitely Purdy might have a arbitrarily higher bar to clear than is fair, because he does have a little bit of a stench on him. And I also think that I think that the Niners are going to want to run the ball. The Ravens running backs, they ran the ball 6 times. The Niners might, quadruple that. And we would expect that McCaffrey, I don't think this is fair, but I think if it's close between Purdy and McCaffrey, I think McCaffrey's going to win MVP. But Purdy can certainly take it out of, in a sense, take it out of voters' hands and just play so well that they have to give it to him. He is still
What is the game script for you for Purdy to win it? Is it yards?
3 touchdowns, 0 picks.
0 picks, 3 touchdowns. Is it rushing yards? Is it a big play, a marquee moment?
I think it's mostly just that you just can't have McCaffrey going wild, and then the offensive production has to be spread, relatively equally among Ayuk and Kettle and Debo and these guys, which it, absolutely can be, because they're all awesome. I think the main thing for Purdy is just that, because obviously any stats that those guys accumulate, they go directly to Purdy as well. It's just Purdy can't have McCaffrey going for 150.
Unless it's like Yak, right? Unless it's like a dump off for 80. Do I want to give Purdy the MVP if it's a Christian McCaffrey?
Well, if it happens in the first or second quarter, it gets forgotten, and it just looks like he has a gaudy stat line. I guess, thinking back to the NFC Championship game, who would have been the MVP of that if they had awarded one?
It's Yeah.
Very close.
Yeah,
It's
it
very
probably
close.
would. It probably would have been Purdy for me.
Yeah.
Just because there were those 3rd and long moments
yeah.
where it looked like he was dead, and it's a first down and then some.
His
Yep.
second half efficiency was out of this world.
McCaffrey ended up McCaffrey's stat line was awesome in that game. He ended up having like 120.
Didn't it feel quiet though?
It did.
Yeah, it did. That was the thing, is that
He was the
I
problem
can't remember a
for
it.
single individual play. Like in that moment, I remember what I'll remember about that game from a Niners perspective is Purdy scrambling.
Yeah,
and
sure.
that
Yes.
scrambling was, that won them the game. And for me and Drew, hopefully it wins them again on Sunday.
So you guys also have his rushing yards over 11.5.
Yes,
Yeah, I think
like
that's
that.
a good
I like
bet.
that 11 up. All right, let's pivot to the association. What did you make of trade deadline day? Is there anything that really moved the needle for you?
I think that the one thing, as I'm looking at my notes, that I was impressed by is the Knicks.
Okay.
You get Bojan Bogdanovic. You bring back Alec Burks back into the house. He's a total Tibbs guy as a backup point guard. So now you have 5 guys shooting 40% from 3, which was their Achilles heel in that series against the Heat. They
Sure.
couldn't buy a bucket. And for Julius Randle to me is kind of, this is going to be a bad comparison maybe if you clip it. Julius Randle to me in the postseason gets kind of the wrong malign, same thing like Lamar.
Okay.
So Lamar, that was not a bad game for Lamar except for that pick,
The one
right?
pick, yeah.
But they didn't run the ball. They made things more difficult for Lamar than they should have. You talk about Julius Randle. Julius Randle can't get busy if the paint is packed.
Sure.
Unless he's doing, shimmy, tween, step back 30 feet contested. You don't want that for
No.
Julius Randle. He's terrible
much
in those
no.
moments. So you have a team that can't shoot, and so teams scheme against that. They pack the paint and makes him look horrible. So you've got all those guys, all that space open for him when he comes back from injury, and now it's like a whole different ball game. You've got OG Anunoby, one of the best spot-up shooters in the league, can defend his ass off. Can I say that?
Yeah,
Ass
you can
off?
say that. You can say
We
that.
all
We're on
agree.
radio.
We
all
We're
right.
in Las
We agree
Vegas.
with
All
that.
right, cool. I mean, I don't know, because I came from one environment, I'm in a different environment. There's FCC, and so so he is going to be an awesome defender for this team. And then you add in another guy who Detroit gave away almost for free,
Sure.
right? And they said that Bojan was going to get 2 first-round picks for him, and they turned that down. So they don't even have to give up 1 first-round pick for him. So they get him. He can score 20 on any given night. He can shoot the leather off the ball. You have OG. You got Jalen Brunson. I mean, it's just a team that I think is probably the second best in the East now.
Okay.
Hate the Bucks. Hate their defense. That Pat Beverly move is interesting. But, yeah, you didn't get rid of DeJounte. I think Atlanta kind of likes him now in the way that they're playing. And the Lakers did absolutely nothing. Golden State did absolutely nothing. So some of those contenders on the fringes, just disgusting stuff if you're LeBron James.
I mean, they weren't going to do anything anyway, so I don't think it matters.
No.
but
But it's the appearance,
yeah,
right?
I think, the it's the appearance, and I think we could make a list of probably half of the teams in the association, and their actions at the trade deadline kind of speak specifically to what's the plan here.
Yep.
What are we doing? Why are we doing this?
Same thing with the Sixers.
Yes, there's a lot of the association feels that way. I don't even feel like we can single out who was the weirdest and hardest to figure out. But I think ultimately the point about the Knicks is fair. They are probably now going to be close to, if not the number 2 rated team in the East for me. It is as long as Joel Embiid is absent. But I think the move for Buddy Hield was pretty decent. He's actually got, he has recovered what was looking like a lost career in large regard, and he does kind of fit a perfect need for that team. I guess the real question is are they going to be in the mix? Is Joel Embiid going to come back? And if that's the case, then I don't know that any of the moves that the Knicks made are going to kind of get them to the next level here. So it's tricky for.
But if he's out 4 to 6 weeks, right? Let's just say that conservatively.
Sure.
And they continue at this disgusting type of play, and I don't think Buddy Hield helps them. They were the worst, 3-point shooting team in the league.
Sure.
But I don't know that Buddy Hield helps them win games. You saw what happened last night or 2 nights ago against the Warriors. They were 3.5-point dogs at the crib, and they get blown out in the second half. If this continues, I mean, they are 10 seed.
Yeah, I think the thing there is that they're not going to fall. They're not going to fall out of the play-in. They're going to be a play-in team at worst. And I think the idea is that if you have Joel back, Like, you're going to be favored in whatever play-in game
Yes.
that you play. And I think now, like, the team is, like, it's an interesting team. Like, on the presumption that Joel comes back and he's a full go by the playoffs, which is not 100% sure by any means, even with the timetable, because he is a guy who needs to be fit. Like, he needs to ramp up.
Sure.
And he's not going to be able to move for quite a while. And so now, if you look at the team, like, if you assume as well that they seem like the front runners to sign Kyle Lowry, and you've got a team of Melton, Maxey, Heald, Tobias Harris, Joel Embiid. Off the bench, you have Batum, potentially Lowry, Kelly Oubre, Paul Reed, Covington. Like, they have pieces.
Sure.
And I think
You're right.
they still might have the second highest ceiling of any team in the East.
1,000%.
And so
Yeah.
I took a little Sixers 30-1 to win the East, just because
That's
when
a
you're
great
betting
bet.
long shots like that, you want that type of variance. But Tris, I think your points about Randall were interesting, because he's one of the strangest players in the league to me, where he is like the best losing basketball player I've ever seen. Where I think that he is like power forward.
Backhanded compliment of the day.
Yeah, well, to me, he's power forward Jaylen Brown. And they have the same thing too, where as soon as they start backing into the post, they just assume that they're going to get their pocket picked.
1,000%.
But Randall, he just makes so many bad decisions. He is a great passer when he wants to be. He's also incredible at getting to the rim. He's so strong. He's got size on defense. To his credit as well, he's become a much better spot-up shooter. He's reliable doing that. He's not hesitant. And I think, yeah, so long as like bad Julius doesn't emerge, this team might have the second highest floor in the East, just because they have so much depth. But I think the sneaky thing, and people don't talk about this with the Knicks, but I went to see them at the Garden when they played the Heat a couple of weeks ago, and Jalen Brunson's incredible. Like, he's amazing. He is an outlier good offensive player. Like, he still kills them on defense because he's so small. And the Heat, when they were rolling in that game, it was like, all right, find Jalen Brunson every single possession, hunt him on a switch, and then everyone is in rotation. And the Knicks, they're so good and long and have great attention to the detail that they can make up for it. But it's just hard when you've got that guy out on the floor on defense. And obviously he's a massive net positive overall, but that would just be my concern about the Knicks, is that, you know, between Randall's Randallness and Brunson on defense, I do worry a little bit about this. Is this team going to like beat Boston in the playoffs?
No,
it just doesn't
Boston's
seem
like
viable.
minus 700 in that series.
The thing, I don't know, man. The thing about Boston that I always worry about, and I've been worried about since Brad Stevens was their head coach.
Sure.
I had a whiteboard in my apartment, and the only thing on the whiteboard, swear to God, was just how many 10-point or more leads that Boston gave up. And it was like 18 the year before Brad Stevens got fired or got elevated or whatever you want to say happened to him. And what happens to Boston is they stop playing team basketball. Jaylen Brown, you know, he can't go left, he can't dribble, we know that. Awesome defender, but Jason Tatum is really the problem for me down the stretch of games. He just disappears, and then there's a phantom injury, and it's like his wrist or it's his ankle, and he like just wants to be this ISO player who does the same thing that kind of Julius Randle does. Just takes these nasty, deep threes for no reason early in the shot clock when he is highly contested, when there's other guys open. And the Knicks, if he's doing that, they're going to feast. They get out into transition. You know, you've got long OG Anunoby, deflections. So they've added size to a point where I think, and then you add in Joe Mazzulla as a coach, who I think is awful. He's just like,
Well,
he's basically Jason Kidd.
awful
He just
is strong.
stands there blinking. He doesn't want to make adjustments. He doesn't
He likes
really
a
want
good blink.
Yeah, he likes a good blink. He gives you random quotes after the game, terrible with the media, no accountability. So I like the Sixers in that matchup against Boston, and I like the Knicks in that matchup.
It's interesting to hear all of these points. I come at the NBA from a player level kind of composite to get a fair. And right now, the Boston Celtics on paper are a super team.
1,000%.
Like, it's absurd. They have now depth. Both of their moves at the trade deadline were, I thought, good.
Xavier Tillman was a good move for them.
Yeah, if you come out of, if you look at this morass and these mess and these very confusing moves, if there was one winner, it was Boston. Like, they look like now prohibitive favorites on paper to get out, but the intangibles are always going to be there until they ultimately win. So,
I think the thing with Boston, to your point, is that, like, they've never been a very cerebral team. Like, Tatum just doesn't
Very
see.
true. Very, very
he just
true.
doesn't see the floor the way, you know, Jokic or Curry or Jimmy Butler and these guys do. And I think that he's gotten better as a passer. And like the thing is like, I don't think people realize that Jason Tatum is, I think he's like 3 months older than Desmond Bane. Like, he is very young still. Like, he is not the fully formed version of what he will be. But it is an issue, and like all that stuff reared its head in the primetime Denver game, which is just a kind of reminder. I think the hope would be that there's so much talent on this team now that those deficiencies, like maybe Tatum's not a great passer, but maybe you don't need to be a great passer if there's so much space on the floor and everyone else is so good around you. So I think that would be the hope. Last one for you, Trysta. I think we agree on this one. You think that Tyrese Maxey is a little vulnerable as most improved player, and he's still a hefty kind of -400, -500 favorite.
Yeah, and for as long as Joel Embiid's going to be out, some people might initially say that it's Tyrese Maxey's offense now and that he's going to play even better, but he's going to see a ton of double and triple teams. You add in Buddy Hield, who helps with that spacing, takes a little pressure off of him if he kicks out to Buddy Hield, but like Buddy Hield's also very vulnerable to bad decision making too. So Tyrese Maxey 2 nights ago had 12 points. He had that one really good performance, I think 51. Right after injury, but like I think unders for Tyrese Maxey for the considerable future are a look. But I like Sengun, man. I think he's getting a lot of steam.
Goon Squad.
Goon Squad.
Welcome to the Goon Squad.
Yep. No, I agree. I think Maxey's very vulnerable. Just quietly, like his case has gotten worse over the past month, where now he's like 20 to 25 points per game, which is fine, but not all world. His playmaking has gone up, but his shooting efficiency has gone way down, and now the team is just losing a ton of games. And I think it will probably continue to be a sub-500 team, even with the small moves that they made. To me, the guy in the market, though, is Kuminga.
That's a good one.
I think Kuminga might be coming. And the thing is that he played like the first 16 minutes of the game against Philly or something. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, if he's going to play 37, 38 minutes a game and average 22, 23 points, I was a bit skeptical on Kuminga at first, but if he's going to get this minutes load and the team is going to get good again, then I think that he has a chance.
Yeah, part B is the problem.
Yeah.
That team's not getting good again.
Steve Kerr also is very erratic with divvying out minutes to young guys.
Sure.
We saw what happened to Kuminga, where he was getting a bunch of DMPs or very little minutes, and then he decided to do the whole superstar thing and talk to Shams about how he has lost faith in Steve Kerr, and then Steve Kerr somehow caved and gave him more minutes. So Kuminga's an interesting case study. Back to your point about Tyrese Maxey, if you look at Lauri Markkanen, who won it last year, 26 points per game, 40% from 3, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, half a steal a game. So his numbers significantly better right now than what Tyrese Maxey is doing. So yeah, I would definitely be trying to go on prop swap or something and sell my Tyrese Maxey.
Lauri Markkanen was also a phenomenal surprise.
Yeah,
he was a throwaway in that trade, and ended up becoming an all-star. I think the market has made Maxey such a prohibitive favorite because everybody has sort of codified the mental model of must be a first-time All-Star to be most improved player, and this might be the year where we see the exception to the rule.
Yeah, I also just think he's going to end with a whimper because the team's going to lose games, his efficiency is going to go in the tank, and guys like Kuminga, Kobe White, Sengun, they might come home, particularly Kuminga, who I think is just going to get more attention than those other guys because the Warriors just get a lot of attention because they're the Warriors, and if they stabilize and they make the play-in, and he's seen as now Steph's running mate going forward, I think he has some upside. He's still in the 25-1 range.
Yeah, and maybe we can make some calls to see if Ramona Shelburne or someone could write an article about how he deserves most improved.
I like that. Just closing note on the Sixers, I had to look it up because I was dying to know. Before the Buddy Hield trade, I only had them favored in 7 games for the remaining season without Embiid.
Yep.
And what's it now, do you think?
Good.
Maybe like 10. But not enough to really change what could be a pretty nasty stench on everything Sixers once we get to April.
There is a very good chance they end up as the 7 or the 8 seed, I think. All right, Trysta, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks
Can you tell
me.
people where to follow you and what you're working on?
Yeah, BetMGM tonight, 7 to 11 Eastern Standard Time. This was like a breeze. This was awesome. Thanks so much for having me. Yeah, so we're on, where you can find it is Twitch. You can find it on YouTube Live. It's also nationally syndicated on the radio as well, so you can find it there, the Odyssey app. And then I have an NBA podcast called The Heat Check. It's more of a comedy NBA podcast.
Okay.
Very, very little betting, but we talk about kind of the game within the game, make sense of the headlines. And then on the weekends, you can find me on WFAN in New York, all things New York sports, and it's a call-in show. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Trysta. All right, well, we are done. Don't forget to check out NBCSports.com for more information to help you with your wagers. Thanks to those of you watching on the NBC Sports YouTube channel. If you're listening to us in podcast form, don't forget to rate and subscribe. And also a reminder to find all your favorite NBC Sports shows on Amazon Music. Just head to amazon.com/NBC Sports. Thank you again, Trysta, from Jay Croucher and Drew Dinsick. Good luck, everyone, with your Super Bowl bets, and we'll see you next week.